Good afternoon to our virtual audience. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to spend some time with us. We are very sorry for this delay. And before we start, allow me to share some housekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question chat box and indicate to whom your question is addressed to. And then later on, the speakers will address the questions. And we have also a translation option. For those who would like to follow this session in French, kindly click on the French option. For others who would like to follow it in English, kindly do as well. And before we start, I would like to give the floor to the president of ELS for his opening remarks. Over to you, President.
Thank you, Angie Doreen. Thank you so much for welcoming us. A very warm welcome to members of the East Africa Law Society, to members of the public that are attending this webinar, to our very special members. I can see we have very many members from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. This is the first inaugural webinar for the East Africa Law Society Committee on Trade and Integration, and it is coming at a very timely opportunity when DR Congo has just joined the East African community. We now stretch from the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean with a population of over 200 million people. What a time to live in East Africa. So I would like to give you a very warm welcome. I hope that the session will be very useful to you, and I hope that you'll be able to benefit from this session. I would like to take the opportunity also to thank our panelists. Thank you so much for allowing to discuss this very important topic. I also want to thank the chairperson and the vice chairperson and the chief coordinator for the East Africa Law Society Trade and Integration Committee. I am certain that this webinar is going to make a difference and will be able to add value to what you know about the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you so much. Asante sana. I wish you very good deliberations and welcome once again. Asante sana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President ELS. I would like now, if Madam Faith is already online, she could take the floor or allow me to continue. Faith?
Thank you so much, Doreen. I hope you can hear me. And greetings from Juba, South Sudan, to all our participants joining us from the East African community, the African continent at large, and indeed from different parts of the world. My name is Faith Masharia. I'm a partner at Anjawa Land Kana, and I'm a moderator today. We had technical challenges from South Sudan, but I'm glad to have joined with you. And I'm also glad that my co-moderator, Angie Doreen, has done a very beautiful job. Also, thank you so much, Mr. President, for the welcomes remark and for recognizing our speakers. We look forward to having a fantastic time. So as the President has correctly said, this webinar has been put together by the East African Law Society Trade and Regional Integration Committee. And I think as even proceed, it's appropriate for me to recognize the officials of these committees that are online. Of course, starting with our president, ELS, Mr. Bernard Oundo from the Republic of Uganda. He's just addressed us. Thank you, sir. Then we have Faith Muthoni Masharia from the Republic of Kenya. That is myself as the chairperson. And then we'll have Mr. Shezada Wali. He's put his video on, you can see him. So that's the vice chairperson of the committee from the Republic of Tanzania. And then we have my co-moderator, who is also secretary of the committee, Ms. Doreen Irakoze from the Republic of Burundi. As you can see, it's a blend, I mean, from officials from different parts of the ESC. And the committee has more than 18 members from different countries of the ESC, apart from the DRC, which recently joined us. And we are hoping that our colleagues from DRC will be joining us together in this committee. So just going on to the topic of the webinar, I know Ms. Doreen has done housekeeping. She must have informed us to make use of the chat in both French and English. We have translators in the house. We'll be able to relate, we'll be able to translate the messages so that you're also serving our colleagues that are joining us from DRC and Burundi. So be at liberty to choose whether you want to use English or French. Now, just to kick us off, Ms. Doreen, has the AG joined us, the SG?
Not
So
yet.
that's fine. So we are still expecting the SG. So he'll be joining us. But just to kick off, to start off the process, even as we wait for the SG, we had put together a panel of distinguished individuals, and maybe I can just go through so that our participants can expect and can have an expectation of what you're going to discuss today. So we had our keynote speaker who will be joining us in a few minutes. That is the Secretary General, the East African Community, the Honorable Dr. Peter Mtuku Mathuki. He'll be joining us. We also had the former Registrar of the East Africa Court of Justice, the Honorable Mr. Euphnalius Okubo. I can see, sir, you're online. Welcome, sir. We also had the Director of Private Sector, Kinshasa, that is DRC, Mr. Sam Amisi Idi. Sir, it's a pleasure to see you and welcome. And we also had Mr. Job Wanjohi, who is the Head of Policy and Research, Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So those are our keynote speakers, and I believe you're going to have a good time. So just to kick us off, we can start by looking at the theme of the webinar, which is the entry of DRC into EAC and the implications to trade. So we know that DRC was recently admitted to the EAC on 29th of March 2022, and we must give a big kudos to the presidents of the East Africa community for working so hard and to see that this indeed has come to a reality. So this is an hourly topic that we want to look at it and see what benefits in terms of professional opportunities, business opportunities, investment opportunities, does the coming in of the DRC, the populous DRC as it is famously known, with over 100 million, what changes, what benefits, if any, does it bring to the organization, to the EAC? So we will be looking at the impact of the Democratic Republic of Congo's admission into the EAC and the expected benefits to the East African community. But before we do that, because that's a topic to be covered by the SG East Africa community, we cannot talk about integration of the EAC without touching the mandate, without touching the critical role that the East Africa Court of Justice plays. It plays and it continues, and we expect it to continue playing an integral role in the integration of the East African community. And to help us discuss and dissect this topic, and just to understand what value, if any, the East Africa is bringing on the table in terms of promoting integration in the East African community, is the former Registrar of the East Africa Court of Justice, the Honorable Euphnalius Okubo. So just a brief bio as he switches on his video and text on the floor, is that the Honorable Mr. Euphnalius Okubo is the former Registrar of the East African Court of Justice. And prior to joining the court, Mr. Okubo was the legal counsel to the Intergovernmental Authority for Development, that is IGAD. He was also a regional that's the regional economic community, where he was in charge of the legal division and the institutional affairs. He has also worked as a company secretary for the Kenya Sugar Board of Kenya, and also worked in the office of the President of the Republic of Kenya as a commissioner. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Faith and Angie and all the participants present. This is an interesting topic. First, I might say I was in the team that went to do the first verification mission in Kinshasa on the admission of DRC. Then I was also part of the negotiations team, the meeting that was held early in the year in Nairobi on the admission of DRC. Then when DRC was admitted, I was still in EAC, so I've seen it through. What is remaining is just the deposit of the instrument of accession, which I believe is a matter that is undergoing in DRC. Now EAC has an additional member, meaning what? Additional markets, additional business opportunities, additional international cross-border investment opportunities, including infrastructure, and additional litigation to the courts. You cannot talk about integration without thinking about dispute resolution. You cannot talk about investing, whether cross-border or even nationally, without thinking about, in the event of a dispute as I'm investing, how will it be solved? And then comes the East African Court of Justice to take care of those regional disputes that occur while pursuing integration agendas. And I must say this, that from what I saw during the verification missions, from the negotiations, we are bound to have EAC and East African Court of Justice is bound to have a lot of work. One, remember, whether you're implementing the protocols on common markets or customs union or doing whatever business, if there's no rule of law, then you are going nowhere with all those opportunities. So the first thing that must be settled, and the court will be prepared for this, I'm sure they've been preparing, is how to settle matters of rule of law and good governance in DRC if businesses continue. Because they're not going to go tell investors or business people, let's go and do business in DRC if they are not sure about matters of rule of law and good governance. They want to know how the investments be protected. They want to know if there's a dispute, where do they go? And the avenue for that, because it's being done under the auspice of EAC, then it will be the East African Court of Justice. Just like what happened when South Sudan joined. I think immediately they deposited the instrument of accession in September. Before they finished 1 month, they were brought to court. Before they even understood what was happening, they were brought to court. And somebody sort of said it's too early to bring them to court. They said, no, we need to start with them now because we have seen something wrong they've done. We can see some allegations of violation of the treaty. We need to start with them now to straighten things in the future so that it opens up more opportunity. I foresee such a thing happening in DRC. And I hope that the lawyers who practice in DRC are preparing for this also, because it's an opportunity for them to open up new avenues of new practice outside what they normally do. Now they'll be practicing in a regional international court, traversing matters of the treaty beyond what they've been doing at national level. And it is also an opportunity for judges of DRC. Definitely they're going to have an opportunity to nominate a judge to be appointed to the East African Court of Justice. That's an opportunity for them again, for them to open up their sphere so that in whatever they are doing in their jurisprudence, they can be applying the EAC law. As I've always said before in other meetings, there can never be an integration without a strong court. Again, this is going to make ESCJ a stronger court because geographical jurisdiction has increased. In as much as judicial jurisdiction is still at the same level until or unless something is done to the treaty to add it additional jurisdiction. But for the business community, and I can see they're represented here, you should not lose sight on the fact that as you do your business, there's a body where you can take your grievances and your rights will be protected, and that is the courts. Much as you may want to solve the disputes in a local way through mediation or through arbitration, should all that fail, you have a court that can sort out those types of cross-border businesses that will then enhance integration. Since it's a new country joining, I know they're going to have a lot of challenges. Those challenges might lead to a lot of court cases. They should not be looked as a threat to the existence or the survival of DRC, but those will help in fostering integration and then also absorbing DRC properly into the realm of EAC and enhance integration. Just as a last point I would like to say is that it is not easy when a new member comes in. There are so many protocols they have to align with themselves. This will take time. And knowing what has been put in place for the smooth integration of DRC into EAC, I think everything should move smoothly. But of course, we all want things to move smoothly, but they never move smoothly. So when cases come up, investors from DRC should not be scared. It is for their own benefits. It's for the good and the growth of the country. It is for the development of the country now that they have joined a regional organization that is spreading from Atlantic Ocean into the Indian Ocean. And the court is also prepared. As far as I'm concerned, it has been preparing. They know many cases might come from DRC, and the jurisprudence is therefore bound to raise, bound to increase, which will help regionally to develop the community. I think I'll leave it at that point for now.
Thank you so much, former Registrar of the East African Court of Justice, the Honorable Euphnalius Okubo. I mean, that has been short and straight to the point. I think some of the key points that we can take and which gives us hope as the East African community is that you've told us that the ESG is always prepared, and they've been preparing, and they have the jurisprudence to take us to the next level of integration. And most importantly, what I hear you saying is that we cannot talk about integration of the EAC without talking about a stronger regional court, being the East African Court of Justice. And also, obviously, the rules of issues have come up. And you've also talked about the opportunities for lawyers, for judges, from the newest member in the EAC Congo. Thank you so much, the Honorable Euphnalius Okubo. We'll definitely come back to you. I'll be checking to see whether there are questions in the chat box. Then that we will ask you to be responding to. So allow me now to proceed to the next speakers. Just for our participants, just continue posting your views, your questions on the chat box. And even if there's an area that you want the East African Law Society Trade and Regional Committee to discuss, please feel free to propose those areas and be able to look into them. Now, I want us now to go even deeper and specifically try to look at employment opportunities, professional opportunities, not only to our brothers in DRC, but to our brothers and sisters, the East African community in the DRC. What are the investment opportunities? Talk about trade, talk about regional, talk about mining. How do the private sector and the public sector collaborate? And most importantly, what are some of the challenges that those businesses in the other East African communities that they think they are in Congo, and how the government in Congo is trying to address those issues, of course, with the support of the infrastructure that the East African community has set together. Now, to help us discuss these issues, right, and on the topic of the impact of the Democratic Republic of Congo's admission into the EAC and the expected benefits to the East African community, to the residents of the East African community, is Mr. Rashid Ribowa, who is the Director of Trade, East Africa Community, and it is my understanding that he will be representing the SG, the Secretary General of the East African Community. So welcome, Mr. Ribowa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Madam Chairperson. I hope this is Madam Wachira. I have been trying to reach out to you through various communications, but in vain. But it's good that we are interacting one at least. First is to bring to your colleagues, councils, the greetings and salutations from the Secretary General of the East African Community Secretariat, who had planned to be part of the interaction tonight, but he has just had to drop off at the last minute, just about 1 hour, because of some very urgent issues relating to the Council of Ministers meeting made next month. In terms of the question by way of impact, let me first say that after signing the treaty in April, it is presumed that the DRC accepts to implement the treaty with its protocols and also engage and ensure implementation of all the community programs and the areas of cooperation. And we hope that soon, when the DRC ratifies the treaty, then it will mean that DRC will be fully part and parcel of the EAC family. In terms of the impact, you know, it is speculative in the sense that the DRC has not yet joined, but at the first level of trade, you know, trade and the customs union is the entry point for the implementation of the EAC project. So on entry, and while the discussions are still underway in terms of how the DRC will go about joining the EAC, the major presumption on joining is that you enter the EAC as it is, the way you find it. But normally we have a schedule, and the joining member partner states begin with the implementation of the customs union protocol. To that extent, Chair, yes, the DRC is expected to liberalize the entry or the trade in goods within the EAC. That is by way of allowing the free movement of EAC goods into the borders of the EAC, of the DRC, duty-free, quota-free. And similarly, all the EAC partner states are expected to allow the free entry of DRC goods into their borders, duty-free, quota-free. So to that extent, Chair, then the huge market of in the DRC of 90 to 100 million people, as has been mentioned before, will be accessible to the producers and business players of the EAC community, the existing partner states. And it will allow freedom of choice to the Congolese for the goods and services that are produced in the region, just the very way it will access and give freedom of choice and access to goods that are produced by DRC, by the rest of the East Africans. That is that is very fundamental to the consumers and the producers in the existing EAC region and the DRC partner states. Secondly, colleagues, you will note that the DRC already shares borders with about 5 EAC partner states. And that means that we are going to tear down these borders, and what has been happening hitherto, where there is some interaction between the DRC business players and those ones of these 5 partner states, it will become official and free. And I think that is very fundamental for both parties, EAC and the DRC. Thirdly, Madam Chairperson and colleagues, you will note that the DRC links directly to the Atlantic Ocean. That way, we expect the EAC to have access to the rest of the world through that end of the African continent. And then it will stiffen the competitiveness between the existing borders and harbors at Dar es Salaam and Nairobi in terms of offering entry and exit services for goods and services. The region will have access to the alternative, and we will be cushioned of any risks that may occur at the eastern side of our borders, in the sense that we now have an alternative of accessing the rest of the world through the Atlantic Ocean. And that is very, very fundamental in terms of that flexibility. Madam Chair, we all know of the huge potential in terms of infrastructure development that the DRC brings to the region by way of air connectivity, free airspace, the roads, the many roads that end at the EAC border, with the DRC, which will now be opened up, even the selling of our power and whatever the DRC. This is a big investment opportunity at the public level in terms of public investment, but as well for the private investors who may want to invest in the EAC region. Something very fundamental about the DRC as a country in terms of infrastructure development is the potential that this country has in terms of power generation. There are so many rivers that crisscross the DRC. One big one is the River Congo, I think, which has the Inga Dam, which is has the potential to produce about, that is too much for the region, even for the continent. So we expect to reap a lot of benefits from this potential. And you know, this project is earmarked for under the agenda, AU Agenda 2063 as a flagship project for poverty reduction in the region and infrastructure development on the African continent. So we hope to tap into this. Apart from that, the EAC has been negotiating concessions with third parties and AGOA and European Union and UK. We are negotiating with China. We are negotiating with Turkey and very many other blocks. So when we are bigger now in terms of negotiation from the 6 partner states to even be joined by the DRC, that will strengthen our negotiating potential, and implicitly we expect to get better trading concessions. So Madam Chair, that is also another area. Madam Chair, the EAC is implementing a common market where we have the free movement of people, persons, free trade in services, and other rights like free movement of capital and free movement of businesses. And when we open up with the DRC and it joins, the fact that EAC business people will have the freedom to enjoy these rights, even with DRC, will bring a lot of potential and benefit to our business communities and ordinary people. So we hope that our common market and the enjoyment of these rights and services in DRC will be accentuated. So, Madam, these are all potential areas. We have already worked on so many instruments and mechanisms at the EAC level, like ones for stop border posts. We have a lot of policy frameworks that we have negotiated at the EAC and signed too. So we hope that this will be opened up to DRC eventually, and that will strengthen our potential and ability to come together as a region. Currently, there are so many imports that the DRC benefits from the EAC region in terms of petroleum and oil products, wood flour, rice, cement, and sugar, and so on. A lot of textile products, processed foods. Oh, the basket that we export to the DRC currently by the bordering partner states is immense, and this will grow more and more when we open up. At the political and security level, Madam Chair, you will know that with these borders with the rest of the EAC partner states, this region has had a lot of issues at a political and security level. And we have not been having a fundamental framework within which some of these issues can be dealt with. Now, the joining of the DRC to the existing EAC will give us a big latitude and space to deal with some of these issues that the region has been grappling with. So, Madam, those are just deep the iceberg, but there are so many areas that if for DRC, if the EAC is well consolidated, we think that the sky is the limit for both parties to engage and grow and prosper and ensure reduction of poverty by both parties through the joining of the two, EAC and the DRC. Asante sana, Madam Chair.
Asante sana, Pia. Thank you so much, the Director of Trade EAC. I mean, some of the benefits that you've just mentioned is, the expected free movement of goods cross-border, of course, the expected free movement of people within from DRC into the EAC now, being part of the EAC, and of course from other EAC countries to the DRC. So maybe Mr. Kiboa, before you just go off, I can see there are a couple of questions that are coming through the chat. But even as my co-moderator looks at the questions that have been addressed to you, that she will be posing to you, maybe one and two, then others we can take at the end of the questions. I just want you just to comment on the fact that there have been public ignorance of the EAC protocols. So as much as we have these protocols that laid out, the governments have put them very well in paper, but there is it has been seen that the public is largely ignorant of this protocol. And now you even have a larger population, so to speak. You've just had other 100 million people coming in that needs to be educated on this protocol. So what are some of the actions that the Secretariat intends to take just to bring awareness of the benefits of the protocols that the EAC has for the residents of the East Africa community?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for that question. It is true that to a large extent, many East Africans may know adequately about the protocol. But I can also say that East Africans, especially those ones who are living along the border, we are already implementing these protocols even before they are coming on board. They were selling goods across the border. They themselves, they are moving. They were crossing to enjoy services. And so as much as they may not know fully, in a way they are already implementing some of these protocols. But I agree that there is a sizable gap in terms of awareness creation for most of East Africans, especially those ones who don't live along the borders, in terms of what exists under these protocols and what benefits and the implications to the people. the Secretary General and the top management of the community has realized that gap. So we are embarking on a very aggressive sensitization and awareness program through the websites, through brochures at the borders, through the TV and radio networks. And we have also had teams moving to the partner states to educate and confer with the stakeholders on these protocol areas. But what I want to agree with you and colleagues is that there is still a lot that needs to be done. But good, it has been identified. And what I can do is to promise you that more effort is going to be invested in the area of bringing the population of both the DRC and the rest of the partner states on board with what this partnership and the collaboration is all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kiboa. Even as my co-moderator, prepares to introduce our next keynote speaker. So one more question for you, Mr. Kiboa, then we can let you to take a break and just, sip some water. There are a couple of questions, a lot of questions for you on the chat, but just to take one at this point, then the others we can take them as we go along, is that so an anonymous attendee has asked, how is the community prepared to address challenges created by potential language barrier within the region? Are there arrangements to have EAC instruments and documents translated into French, which is widely used in DRC, or that country will have to adjust and use English or Swahili? I imagine the official language of EAC is English and Swahili. Will French be made one of the official languages? So that's a question from one of the attendees. To you, Mr. Kiboa.
Madam Chairperson, the summit, the EAC Summit of Heads of State has already given a directive in that direction that French and Swahili are fast tracked to become operational languages. Because while Swahili is also in the background, it has not been used quite often. But there is a summit directive of last year that these two languages are fast tracked to become official languages of the EAC. I was surprised when I went to a meeting around 2 days ago. It was a top management meeting, and before it began, I just had a lot of staff, both from Rwanda and Burundi. They were communicating well in French, and we were excited to find that already at the secretariat level, this directive is being implemented. But specific to your question, there is a lot of investment, a lot of works that are underway now to promote French, to promote the usage of Kiswahili as part of the official and normal languages in the EAC. So we shouldn't worry much of that. A lot of work is going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kiboa, for putting into rest that concern from one of our attendees, and indeed from majority of our members from the DRC. So I will now allow my co-moderator, Ms. Angie Doreen, to introduce our next speaker. Welcome, Ms. Angie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next speaker is a private sector representative whose mission is to be distinguished voice for private stakeholders of Kinshasa in the region, but as well as around the world. Mr. Sam Amisi Ide is his name, and he's the director of Private Sector Chamber in Kinshasa, whose right denomination is Fédération des Entreprises du Congo. Now, what makes his presentation relevant this afternoon is because he has been working for the private sector since May 1995 up to now, where he has been active in several roles, so means he knows perfectly the private sector landscape. And central to his mandate is to promote national and regional economic exchanges, including trade and investments. He's going to share his thoughts on the newly accession of DRC into EAC, and particularly its implication on investment and competitiveness. With that, I ask you to give him full attention and help me in welcome him. Mr. Amisi, the floor is yours. You can unmute yourself and share your thoughts. Monsieur Amisi, vous pouvez maintenant nous partager votre présentation. Merci.
Bon, merci beaucoup pour la parole. Et que j'ai quand même du mal à suivre l'interprétation en français, mais j'espère que j'aurai les retours pour me permettre de répondre aux questions qui me seront posées, parce que l'interprétation en français, elle est, elle bègue un peu, hein? C'est-à-dire qu'on ne suit pas correctement, parfois ça coupe, parfois on ne sait pas suivre les idées. Voilà, très bien. Alors moi, il m'a été demandé par rapport à, je suis M. Amissi, je travaille à la Fédération des entreprises du Congo. La Fédération des entreprises du Congo, c'est la structure la plus représentative du secteur privé en RDC. Bon, il m'a été demandé d'intervenir dans le cadre de cet atelier, et on m'a proposé des thèmes qu'il fallait que je parle, donc qui ont été présentés tout à l'heure. Donc, mon point de vue, je tiens à le préciser tout à l'heure, je ne suis pas quelqu'un qui est de politique, quelqu'un qui est officiel, je suis vraiment représentant du secteur privé. Et je parle du point de vue du secteur privé. Par rapport au sujet d'aujourd'hui, nous sommes dit au niveau du secteur privé congolais, en tout cas au niveau de la Fédération des entreprises du Congo, nous tenons à dire que la structure d'abord, avant de parler de l'adhésion de la RDC à toute, parce que la RDC aujourd'hui, comme vous le savez, est membre de plusieurs communautés économiques régionales. Nous sommes membres, aujourd'hui nous sommes membres de la communauté économique de l'Afrique de l'Est, nous sommes membres du COMESA, nous sommes membres de SADC, nous sommes membres de la CAC, nous sommes membres de la communauté économique régionale, la ZLECAF, et tout le monde le sait.
Sorry, Mr. Mese, so if I may just interrupt, sorry for that. So I'm getting a chat from my attendees that the translation is not clear. Then I'll have to ask our co-moderator to translate your address for the benefit of the attendees, please. So Doreen, if you can kindly do us the favor and just translate the address of Mr. Amisi so that all our members can understand and follow this discussion. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have already an interpreter, a translator. For those who are following, they can switch to English.
Maybe you can just give them the directions for those that joined late, how they switch. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. Monsieur Amisi, vous pouvez continuer.
Merci, madame. Je continue. Alors, je disais que la RDC est membre de plusieurs communautés économiques régionales, notamment la dernière en date, c'est la communauté économique de l'Afrique de l'Est. Nous sommes membres de la SADC, nous sommes membres du COMESA, nous sommes membres de la CAC, nous sommes membres finalement de la communauté de la ZLECAF, la communauté continentale. Au fait, pour le secteur privé, pour nous, le secteur privé, ça ne pose aucun problème, parce que qui est celui qui peut refuser à ceux qui poussent ses affaires, parce que l'objectif de l'adhésion de la RDC à toutes ces communautés économiques régionales et même continentales, c'est d'accroître les échanges. Mais nous disons, pour accroître les échanges, pour qu'il y ait échange, il faut d'abord produire. Parce que qu'est-ce que vous allez échanger si vous ne produisez pas? Et pour produire, il faut qu'il y ait des investissements, il faut qu'il y ait des gens qui investissent dans le secteur productif. Donc, ce que nous disons, c'est que nous sommes d'accord pour tout ça, mais qu'il y a des préalables à faire, mais nous ne sommes pas contre non plus. Voilà pourquoi nous avons dit dans notre présentation que nous avons envoyée tout à l'heure, c'est de dire que la situation économique aujourd'hui, la structure économique de la République démocratique du Congo, par rapport aux autres pays, je ne sais pas quelle est la situation des autres pays de l'Afrique de l'Est, mais ce qui est vrai, en République démocratique du Congo, la structure économique, elle est celle qui a été héritée de la colonisation belge. C'est-à-dire aujourd'hui, la RDC, son économie, c'est-à-dire que la production, l'exportation dépend des matières premières, depuis toujours, depuis la colonisation, depuis 1960, elle n'a pas changé. Et que la RDC intervient très peu dans l'échelle des valeurs mondiales parce qu'elle exporte de manière brute ce qu'elle produit, notamment les matières premières, et la RDC aujourd'hui, elle est importatrice nette de tout ce qu'elle consomme ici localement, net, je dis bien net, tout ce qu'elle produisait, elle importait, la RDC aujourd'hui, elle est consommatrice, elle est importatrice nette des produits qu'elle importe. Elle consomme parce que la production locale, elle est déficitaire. Donc, pour nous qui sommes en République du Congo, nous qui représentons le secteur privé, la crainte, ce n'est pas qu'on a peur, la crainte, c'est qu'il faudrait, pour que la République du Congo ne soit pas un marché comme elle est aujourd'hui pour les produits asiatiques européens, mais il faudrait que la République du Congo puisse tirer parti de son adhésion à ces différentes organisations économiques régionales. C'est pourquoi nous avons dit, et nous cessons de le dire, il faut qu'il y ait, malgré les potentiels, qu'on peut crier partout les potentiels, la RDC dispose de ceci, mais à quoi ça sert un potentiel en richesse si ces richesses ne sont pas produites en richesse réelle pour la population? Voilà pourquoi nous avons dit, vous avez des richesses, c'est vrai, le Congo est riche potentiellement, mais en réalité, la réalité c'est pauvre. Je ne vais pas revenir sur les indicateurs, mais nous disons tout simplement ceci, si l'adhésion à ces communautés régionales peut aider à ce qu'il y ait l'amélioration, qu'il y ait la production, qu'il y ait l'exportation, tant mieux. Voilà pourquoi nous avons toujours dit ceci. Nous disons ceci, nous demandons au gouvernement. Parce que lorsque le gouvernement entreprend des négociations, on n'associe pas le secteur privé. Et nous disons tout simplement ceci, c'est qu'il faut, même ceux qui vont venir investir en République démocratique du Congo, s'il n'y a pas l'amélioration des conditions de l'exercice des activités économiques, il n'y aura pas d'investissement en RDC. Et tout le monde le sait que l'environnement des affaires aujourd'hui en RDC n'est pas favorable à l'exercice des activités économiques en République du Congo. Ça, je ne le dis pas, c'est tout le monde qui le dit, mais le chef de l'État lui-même l'a dit. Il a même créé au sein de son cabinet une agence, une cellule en ce qui concerne le climat des affaires. Donc, il faut absolument qu'on améliore les conditions de l'exercice d'activité économique pour attirer les investissements, pour que les gens viennent transformer ces potentiels qui existent en richesse réelle. Parce que les potentiels resteront potentiels et les gens continueront à demeurer pauvres si on ne transforme pas ces potentiels en richesse réelle. Et pour transformer les richesses réelles, il faut les investissements, il faut les capitaux, dont la RDC souffre en manque. Donc, aujourd'hui, pour que la RDC soit réellement compétitif, il faut transformer, il faut créer l'environnement des affaires qui soit favorable. Je vous donne un exemple très simple. Au Rwanda, par exemple, il y a une seule autorité en ce qui concerne la perception des recettes de l'État. Mais en RDC aujourd'hui, au niveau national, pour percevoir toutes les recettes qui existent, pour percevoir toutes les recettes, les perceptions, au niveau national, il y a 3 régies financières. Il dit 3 régies financières. Et au niveau provincial, on a 26 provinces, il y a 26 régies financières. Donc, chaque province a sa régie financière. Vous imaginez qu'une entreprise se retrouve en face, c'est-à-dire que toute une année, les entreprises passent tout leur temps à recevoir des ordres d'émission, des ordres de services qui viennent de services financiers pour les contrôler, pour percevoir les taxes, alors qu'ailleurs, tout est facilité. Tout est facilité. C'est pourquoi nous disons, je peux vous dire, c'est pas, je ne dis pas ça vient de moi-même, c'est-à-dire que ça vient des opérateurs économiques. Les gens passent leur temps 7 jours par semaine ou 6 jours par semaine, 4 jours à discuter avec l'administration fiscale, comment payer les impôts, qu'à travailler. Et cela entraîne, comme vous le savez très bien, ça peut entraîner la corruption. Donc, il faut absolument qu'aujourd'hui, on prenne conscience, il faut améliorer l'environnement des affaires avec du Congo pour qu'on attire des investissements, pour que les gens viennent et que la République tire parti de son adhésion aux différentes zones économiques régionales, notamment la zone économique de l'Afrique de l'Est. Nous savons aussi, ce n'est un secret pour personne, et tout le monde le sait, que la République démocratique du Congo, même s'il présente aujourd'hui, les gens disent qu'il a un marché de 40 millions d'habitants, des consommateurs, mais un consommateur, d'après ce que j'ai étudié moi, c'est celui qui peut venir acheter chez vous régulièrement et de façon régulière. Mais combien de Congolais aujourd'hui ont un pouvoir d'achat pour acheter régulièrement? Et de même, je l'ai dit, les marchés congolais, par manque des infrastructures, il est difficile aujourd'hui de faire ce qu'en interne. Les marchés, il est déstructuré parce qu'il est difficile, quelqu'un qui produit à l'Est, quelqu'un qui est à Goma, quelqu'un qui produit, par exemple, la viande à Goma, il est difficile qu'il vienne vendre sa viande ici à Kinshasa parce que ça va coûter plus cher. Parce que lorsqu'il transporte une tonne de viande de Goma à Kinshasa, ça va coûter trop cher. Il préfère la viande qui est importée de l'Europe coûte moins cher. Ce qui fait que, avec l'adhésion de la RDC dans l'État économique de l'Afrique de l'Est, cela premièrement va profiter, c'est très bien, ça va profiter à la partie Est. Ça c'est clair. Mais aujourd'hui, s'il faut venir, par exemple, quelqu'un qui veut importer de la viande ou bien du poulet ou bien de la farine qui vient de l'Est, qui vient de pays de l'Est, ça ne peut venir que par la voie aérienne. Parce que les routes n'existent pas. Les voies ferroviaires n'existaient pas. Quel est le coût? Qu'est-ce que quelqu'un qui produit, qui va importer, par exemple, du lait qui vient du Kenya pour venir ici, combien ça va coûter? Par rapport à ce que les gens importent, qui vient, par exemple, de l'Europe. Donc, il y a un problème réel des infrastructures pour que les marchés congolais soient réellement un marché uni. Parce que, à mon avis, et de la Fédération, un marché déstructuré parce que FAT, il n'est pas interconnecté en interne par manque des infrastructures. Pour quelqu'un qui vient investir pour transformer ce potentiel en richesse, mais il n'y a pas de courant. Or que tout le monde sait, pour transformer, il faut qu'il y ait de l'électricité. Et aujourd'hui, les gens qui produisent, ils savent. Parfois, les gens, par manque du courant en énergie électrique, ils achètent des groupes électrogènes, ce qui accroît les coûts de production. Aujourd'hui, j'ai parlé des régies financières, j'ai parlé de toutes les conditions difficiles d'exercer l'activité économique, ce qui fait que la plupart, et là, je crois que vous le lisez, je n'invente rien, l'économie de la RDC beaucoup de gens sont dans les secteurs informels. Et parce que les conditions de l'activité économique sont très difficiles. Et les gens se réfugient dans l'informel. Et parfois, les gens qui sont dans l'informel, et tout le monde le sait, et tout le monde le sait, ce n'est pas l'informel des mamans qui vendent au niveau des marchés les beignets pour faire vivre sa famille, mais c'est plus le côté informel qui est alimenté, qui est soutenu parfois par les autorités politiques, qui les gens qui importent, qui font la concurrence déloyale à ceux qui sont établis officiellement. C'est ce qui est grave. Ce n'est pas l'informel des gens qui vont les baigner, non. Les gens qui font la survie pour faire vivre les familles, on ne peut pas dire c'est l'informel, mais j'ai dit l'informel qui est plus grave pour l'économie, c'est celle qui est soutenue, entretenue par certaines autorités politiques qui permettent de faire concurrence à ceux qui sont établis légalement. Ce qui fait que les gens qui ont des parapluies aujourd'hui font entrer des marchandises sans payer les droits État, ils font concurrence à ceux qui exercent l'activité légalement. Donc, il faut, je crois que les chefs de l'État, et là, on les félicite parce qu'il faut qu'ils continuent à mettre en place des mécanismes pour lutter contre la corruption. Ça va aider à résoudre ces problèmes et nous lui sommes peut-être reconnaissants et nous l'encourageons à poursuivre cette politique de lutte contre la corruption. Vous m'avez parlé, je vais continuer, je vais parler de sujet. Vous m'avez dit de parler sur les opportunités d'affaires. Mais écoutez, moi, je vais pas parler du potentiel. Non, je ne veux pas du potentiel. Les potentiels existent, tout le monde les connaît. Je dis toujours que, à quoi c'est parler des potentiels si les gens sont pauvres, j'en sais rien. Mais je vous dis, j'ai dit sincèrement ceci, les opportunités d'affaires existent et des fois des potentiels que la République de dispose. Aujourd'hui, les gens peuvent venir, par exemple en matière minière, ils peuvent venir créer des entreprises d'exploitation minière, ils peuvent venir créer des comptoirs d'achat de diamants, ils peuvent venir aujourd'hui, la République aussi s'est engagée dans la transformation de ces matières premières, et on parle par exemple aujourd'hui en ce qui concerne de batteries. Les gens peuvent venir aujourd'hui créer des entreprises en matière, parce que les ressources existent, la matière première existe, mais il faut, je dis bien, il faut que l'État congolais crée des conditions, mette des infrastructures qui permettent aux gens qui s'établissent de produire, de transformer ces matières premières locales. S'il n'y a pas l'industrie, s'il n'y a pas l'énergie, on ne peut pas transformer. On ne peut pas transformer. S'il n'y a pas de route pour évacuer, on ne peut pas transformer. Ça va coûter plus cher. Donc, il faut que l'État crée des conditions qui permettent à ceux que les investisseurs qui sont intéressés à transformer ces potentiels en risques réels de venir investir. Il faut le faire. Dans le secteur agricole, il y a des opportunités d'affaires. Je ne dis pas, comme les gens disent, qu'il y a 125 millions, je ne sais pas moi, de terres arables, mais à quoi ça sert si les gens ne viennent pas investir? Pourquoi les gens ne viennent pas investir? Parce qu'aujourd'hui, quelqu'un peut venir installer et il ne sait pas évacuer les matières premières parce qu'il n'y a pas de route. Donc, il faut créer des conditions pour que les gens viennent investir dans le secteur agricole. Quand la République du Congo était indépendant, la RDC était essentiellement d'abord un pays agricole. On exportait plus. Tout ce qu'on exportait aujourd'hui, on importe tout. Ce qui est un problème. Pourquoi les autres ont évolué, nous, on a régulé? On doit se poser des problèmes, on doit se poser des questions et trouver des solutions à ces problèmes. Il y a des questions, il y a des opportunités d'affaires aujourd'hui. J'ai dit dans les secteurs, par exemple, dans l'immobilier, dans les secteurs des banques. J'ai envoyé un document, je crois que vous pouvez l'utiliser, je ne veux pas revenir là-dessus. Alors, pour créer une entreprise, on m'a demandé de créer un peu pour la création d'une entreprise. Quelles sont les procédures? Je tiens à les dire, moi, que les gens ne me voient pas que je sois trop critique, mais je n'ai pas de la vérité de ce que cette entreprise. Je m'excuse si cela peut énerver certaines personnes, mais je parle de la vérité. Je n'ai pas du point de vue secteur privé. Donc, pour faciliter, à mon avis, aujourd'hui, les investissements, le gouvernement a fait certaines réformes, mais qui, à notre avis, restent un peu, qui ne sont pas suffisantes. On a fait l'école des investissements. L'école des investissements, pas des investissements, mais vous pouvez demander, malheureusement, à notre ami, le DG de l'ANAPI, qui ne sait pas intervenir aujourd'hui. Depuis que l'ANAPI est créée, je crois, ils n'ont pas agréé plus de 2000 projets. Dans 20 ans. Ça veut dire qu'aujourd'hui, ce code d'investissement pose problème et même lui-même, aujourd'hui, le gouvernement s'est dit, il s'est engagé pour réviser ces codes d'investissement parce qu'ils n'attirent pas les investissements. et qu'on a créé aussi pour faciliter les investissements un guichet unique de création d'entreprise. Mais ce guichet unique, il n'existe qu'à Kinshasa, il n'existe qu'à Lubumbashi, il n'existe qu'à Goma. Et même l'objectif était de créer les entreprises en 3 jours. Mais aujourd'hui, si vous allez pour créer votre entreprise, il vous faut peut-être 1 semaine, 2 semaines. On vous dit pour créer pour une personne physique, il faut $30. Une entreprise pour une personne morale, il faut $80. Mais aujourd'hui, ce que vous payez officiellement, ce que vous payez sous table, dépasse largement ce que officiellement on vous réclame. Donc, il y a un problème. Il faut trouver réellement des solutions. C'est pourquoi nous disons au secteur privé qu'il faut absolument qu'il y ait la volonté politique. Il faut qu'il y ait réellement la lutte contre ces antivaleurs. Et là, nous invitons le chef de l'État sincèrement à s'y mettre parce qu'il s'est engagé dans cette voie pour mettre de l'ordre dans ces systèmes, dans ça, parce que on ne peut pas aujourd'hui adhérer à des zones économiques spéciales si on n'est pas en mesure de produire un minimum. C'est pourquoi pour nous, bon, je vais revenir après. On a demandé des défis juridiques en ce qui concerne pour les investisseurs. Défis juridiques, bon, au fait, en ce qui concerne les droits des affaires, la République démocratique du Congo aujourd'hui a adhéré à l'OADA, qui est l'organisation pour l'amélioration des droits des affaires. Il va de soi très clairement que lorsque nous nous adhérons à la COMESA SADC, qui est une coordination, une harmonisation de ce qui se fait en interne avec ce qui fait au niveau régional. Il va de soi. Donc, il faut, j'espère que cela va aller plus vite et surtout que l'État, la communauté économique de l'Afrique de l'Est, d'après les informations que j'ai à ma possession, c'est la communauté la plus active et qui est avancée en ce qui concerne l'intégration économique. Donc, nous sommes aujourd'hui, ici déjà au niveau des commerçants SADC, nous sommes très largement en retard. Comment est-ce qu'on va faire? Parce qu'au niveau de la communauté économique de l'Afrique de l'Est, vous êtes déjà au niveau de l'union douanière. C'est ce que j'ai appris et que même au niveau de la CAC, nous sommes membres, parce que la présidence, au niveau de la SADC, de la CAC, nous ne sommes même pas au niveau de la zone économique de libre-échange. Donc, il faut au niveau du gouvernement qu'il y ait de la volonté politique pour aller plus vite. Je ne sais pas si je dois continuer ou bien si je dois m'arrêter là.
Monsieur Amissi, oui, le temps n'est pas de notre côté. Donc, si vous pouvez probablement nous donner... Monsieur Amissi.
Vous m'avez dit? Oui.
OK, vous pouvez m'entendre maintenant?
Oui, je vous suis.
OK, je disais que le temps nous fait défaut. Marion, vous devez probablement nous donner la conclusion.
Donc, la conclusion que je vais dire tout simplement, c'est que pour le secteur privé, pour qu'il y ait adhésion de la RDC, pour que la RDC soit bénéfique, il faut que le secteur privé, qu'il y ait des conditions qui permettent au secteur privé qui permettent de jouer pleinement son rôle. Et pour que le secteur privé joue pleinement son rôle, il faut améliorer absolument les conditions d'exercice de l'activité économique en RDC. Voilà, c'est ma conclusion.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Amissi. Thank you very much.
Merci, madame.
Thank you for an enlightening presentation on the investment promotion. I think the translator can shift to French, please. Okay, thank you for your presentation. My take on regarding your thought is the investment opportunities you've just shared with us, and you pointed out the challenges one may encounter as an investor and how they can be overcome. And most importantly, you've highlighted the opportunities for cross-border trade. Indeed, it has a vital role into sustainable regional integration. We really appreciate your presentation and the information you've shared with us. I would like to our
Merci.
audience, je vous en prie. I would like to our audience to keep sharing your questions in the Q&A session, and the speakers will address it after. Our next presenter has a proven trade experiences acquired both from public and private sector. Mr. Job Wandrohi Moretti, I hope I'm pronouncing your name well, is the head of policy research and advocacy, one of Kenya's leading business association with over 1,000 members. The unit provides the overall direction in the policy and advocacy work of the association. His professional experiences span from international NGOs, public and private sectors. His main focus for this afternoon session will be on the potential opportunities for the manufacturing sector. And after that, he will share some recommendation on what DRC and other governments should consider to facilitate trade in DRC. Mr. Wandrohi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Faith and G, for this opportunity. I hope you can hear me well. I'm going to be brief, precise, and direct to the point as far as my presentation. So you've talked of what are these opportunities that lies in the integration of Democratic Republic of Congo to EAC. One that we look at is the enormous market opportunity that is coming in because of DRC joining the EAC community. When we are going for negotiations, probably with other custom unions or with free trade agreements, you find that the demography comes into play, whereby if you look at the EAC today, as it stands, we have about 177 million people, but when you 90 million to 100 million people into that demography, it gives us about 250 to 270 million people within EAC with the 7 partner states. So that's a huge market that we need to tap into as the rest of EAC partner states, from South Sudan to Kenya, to Uganda, to Tanzania, and the rest. The other thing also you realize that is coming as an opportunity is that the Democratic Republic of Congo is a member of COMESA, just as Kenya is. For the longest, they have not been member of the Free Trade Agreement. So as such, you find that the Kenyan products that are being sold in DRC, they have been attracting duties. But when DRC joins EAC community, they will be operating at a custom union and also the common market. And this was even noted by the chair of EAC community, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, that once they join, you'll find that the free movement of goods and services, labor and capital will be enhanced. And at the same time, you'll find that the custom union will have the common external tariff that now is going to come and shield 7 partner states from trade from the trade coming from the rest of the world. And I'm happy that today we are celebrating new rates for common external tariff. At the same time, new bans. Instead of having three bans, now we're talking of 4 bans. So as they are coming to join the EAC community, effective September, you see that we'll have enhanced for ourselves. Have a more competitive market than it has been before. And this is a great advantage for us, especially when you couple with the demography I was talking before that has become large. The other thing also you'll notice that the trade between like now Kenya and Democratic Republic of Congo has stood very low, and this is now going to be enhanced under the custom union and the common market. Illustratively, coming from from reliable sources indicates that like now Kenya exported goods worth 134 million US dollars. This is like now the tobacco, the iron and steel, sugar, confectionery, processed foods, beverages, footwear, and plastics. And on the other hand, the fact that the imports that are coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Kenya, it's about 25 million US dollars. So it starts low, but with now coming to the EAC market, and now when you correlate with the trade that is happening between like now Kenya, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda, and Burundi and Rwanda, you see that because of the EAC community and the custom union, there is heavy trade that is happening than it used to happen 30 years ago. So this is something else that you'll see coming up during that time. The issue of investment has come up, and I'm happy that my colleague from the private sector in DLC has really talked about these investment opportunities and the attending challenges that are coming with someone who wants to get some of these opportunities. Well, one thing that we have to recognize, and even the manufacturers in Kenya are recognizing, is that we can not only trade with the Democratic Republic of Congo, but even we can do investments in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we will benefit from the Common Market Protocol that allows the free movement of goods and services and labor and capital. So when you're talking about the capital expenditure, you find that now it's going to be better than it has been before because of the Common Market Protocol, which came into place in 2010. The other thing I'm looking at is now the geoeconomics. When you're talking about the natural resources that are in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and it's a natural occurrence in Africa when you see that in Kenya we have raw materials, and instead of doing the value addition to some of these raw materials, or even like now coffee, tea, pyrethrum, and whatnot, we normally send out to Europe, to Asia, to Americas, semi-processed or intermediate products, instead of going the full hog up to making the finished products. And at least when I'm looking at Africa, and then when I'm looking at EAC as it is with the Democratic Republic of Congo coming into play, is the region of origins, looking at how instead of having the cobalt that is coming from the Democratic Republic being shipped outside of EAC community, having not been value added, how can we make that a value addition in the country, in the region? And then once we have value added, like now making of those batteries that were being talked about, then we can ship out some of these through the international value chains and supply chains, and also through part manufacturing to those who are making the telephones or the cell phones, or those who are making the electric cars. So we be part of the value chain, not only by providing the raw material, but by providing the semi-processed products, or even the finished product through part manufacturing. The other thing also I'm looking at is that we have been negotiating for the African Continental Free Trade Area as a bloc, and you find that the regional economic blocs are the ones that have been negotiating for this, and there are mechanisms that have been established whereby the Republic of Congo is going to accept the tariffs that have been offered by the EAC to the other regional economic blocs under the African Continental Free Trade Area. And as such, when we are offering the tariffs for liberalization at a category A as a group of 7 partner states, we have more bargaining power than when we have the initial 6 partner states. Even when you're talking about the rules of origin, again, you find that we have more bargaining power. So these are opportunities for negotiation with the rest of Africa, for negotiation with the rest of the world. So something else that I'm looking at is like when Kenya is considering like now the railway infrastructure development. You find there's negotiation that happens with Southern Sudan and many other countries. And this is going now to be extended even to the Democratic Republic of Congo, so that there's seamless movement of goods and services from the regional EAC partner states now to the Democratic Republic of Congo. You find from road infrastructure to railway infrastructure to water infrastructure when we're talking of the seas and the oceans and whatnot. So the infrastructure integration is likely to happen, and once it happens, you see that crossing over from Kenya by road to Democratic Republic of Congo is going to be easier than it has been before. I look forward to welcoming the Democratic Republic of Congo Manufacturers Association to what we call the EAC Manufacturers Association, that whose secretariat is housed within Kenya Association of Manufacturers, so that we can continue discussing more as far as the non-tariff are concerned, as far as the trade policies within the region are concerned, the common market, the custom protocols, so that we better the trade within the region. So looking forward also in the peace and security sector, because you find that when the partner states come together, there is also heavy discussion that happens around such areas. And you know, when trade has to happen, investment has to happen, the movement of goods and services has to happen, the peace and security has to be pursued commonly by all the partner states. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wanjohi. This is very insightful. And my take is that you've highlighted that now the community is becoming a huge market, not only in demography, but also in terms of trade. And we need to be more competitive than how we used to be. And also we need not to be anymore at the receiving end, but more proactive. Thank you very much. So with that, we will go ahead and take some time for questions. If you want to talk or share any comment, observation, please raise your hand and we will give you some few time to ask your question. But before that, maybe we can address, our speakers can address some of the questions in the chat box. I can see from my screen, yes, one question to Mr. Kiboa. I think he's okay, he's still here. Aren't those invest merits on DRC joining more theoretical and less practical in light of the unending political instability in DRC? I think even this one, Mr. Sam Amisi will have to share his thought on that. Mr. Kiboa, if you can hear us.
Yes, I could hear, but I got muted. Madam Chair, an integration is like, can I say it's like a marriage, a normal marriage. The members have got to work for it. If we decide to keep our integration theoretical, it can be theoretical. If we want to keep it practical, it can be practical. And there are people who came and learned from us under the first integration and went and worked hard and perfected their integration to the extent that they are now intertrending to the level of over 60%. So I wouldn't say that integration with DRC is a theoretical or practical, but what I pick from the remark is that we need to work extremely hard to make it practical and productive. I'm convinced from my professional and professional background and experience that there is no alternative to integration. DRC cannot make it alone. Even our 6 partner states cannot move to the next level single-handed. It is more easier and practical for us to come together and try to build ourselves into a single entity. And it is only then that we can begin to tackle trade, infrastructure, industrialization, investment, tourism, security, whatever issues. There is no alternative. So my hope and answer is that there is the framework. We already have the EAC. DRC has joined. We need to put in the required investment to not to make it theoretical but practical. And I think it is doable. It is doable. We harmonize the policies, we harmonize the systems, we harmonize the practices. We look at infrastructure development together. Security, there are already efforts underway in terms of looking at security together. I am hopeful personally. So for this time, I don't think there is all the potential and goodwill from all players to not to make it theoretical but practical, and we should give them a helping hand. Madam Chair, there was an earlier question just before that, whether in the absence of the factors for regional professional harmonization, for movement of professionals, how can the coming on board of the DRC help us? There are efforts really to underway to harmonize the qualifications, to harmonize the practices in these areas. But we need to move faster. We need to move. It requires a lot of resources. It requires a lot of activities. It requires a lot of realignment of our national legislations and systems and practices to an agreed national framework. And there are some efforts. What I'm picking from the question is that we need to invest more in this and move forward. The Common Market Protocol framework gives us the leeway. It gives us the framework within which we have to do all this. They have professional organization, for example, for lawyers, for engineers, for doctors, for professional oversights at academic level. And once the goodwill is enlisted, to me, I don't think this is insurmountable. We could move with the professional areas that show the potential to move faster, and then slowly by slowly we move on. It is just that there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I also had the complaints about multiple membership. My take on this is that whether we have the EAC, we have the tripartite and the continental free trade area, and then DRCs under COMESA and SADC. The bottom line is that across the African continent, there looks to be harmonization that is going on, albeit at different levels. And some of the instruments, for example, if you look at the instruments that are being used to harmonize at the continental level, these ones basically originated from the tripartite level, and the EAC was a big player in developing it is actually the EAC instruments that inform the tripartite harmonization process. So as long as there is harmonization going on and we're using the REC instrument, the existing REC instruments, and we are all following the Acquis principle that as you harmonize, you don't derogate from what you have already committed at the REC level, then we should be able to move in a common direction. And the problems then associated with multiple membership should be withering as we move upwards at the tripartite with the tripartite and the continental integration. It should cease to be a problem. Then there was a lot of, can I call it lamentation, for lack of a better word, that there is no local production in DRC, is just importing and it is becoming a supermarket for the rest of from the rest of the world. Then business environment looking in the DRC being rather wanting, corruption issues, low level of competitiveness, economic infrastructure being unresponsive, political goodwill wanting. It's not good that to hear that all these issues exist in the DRC. But I want to confess that even the other partner states in the existing EAC may have a sizable amount of some of these issues, but when we move together as EAC as 7 partner states, there is the potential for us to learn from one another. If you go to some of these partner states which are part of EAC and compared what they looked like before joining EAC and what they look like in terms of policy environment, some of them had no even policy framework in areas like monetary policy. They didn't have capital markets. They didn't have so many things. But when they joined the EAC, these frameworks are being put in place. And all this is the whole essence of us joining together, that we learn from where the colleagues are doing better and we're able to copy the best in our own countries, and those ones where we are doing worst, we avoid. In terms of movement of goods and movement of labor, goods should move from where they can be less competitively produced to where they can be more competitively produced, and therefore lower priced. The same for labor, and so on and so forth. So my points are that these issues or these problem areas exist even in the other partner states, albeit at different levels. But 2, that it is because of the existence of these problems that then integration makes it a point. Then 3, that these differentials, as we integrate and harmonize our policies, they should, whether with the relative movements of labor, goods, and so on and so forth. So we deal with them implicitly as part and parcel of the regional integration process. So we should move ahead with the project of integration at the EAC level and with the DRC.
Thank you, Mr. Kiboa. We have a lot of questions coming. I would like to ask my Madam Chair to share maybe one more question before we close.
Yeah, so this is a question to the Honorable, the former Registrar of the East African Court of Justice, the Honorable Okubo. So there's a question from Mugabe Ivan. So he says you've made reference to the East African Court of Justice being stronger and stronger by the day. So his concern is, as the ESJ gets stronger, the more issues that we'll have in respect of state sovereignty will be impacted. He wants to have your views on that. And secondly, he says that the different countries in the EAC, for example, Congo, they are founded on civil law rather than the British common law legal traditions. So what legal tradition is the African Court of Justice going to adopt to cater for these variations? And the third question, there's a question from Desmond Odhiambo. can a trader or a businessman or a company bring a case against a state at the ESCJ, or do they have to go through the state? To you, the Honorable Yufunali Sukubu.
Thank you. Maybe let me start with the last one, whether a trader can bring a case against the state. Now, the treaty provides as to who can be sued, and one of them is a member state. So yes, a trader can bring a case direct against a state, not through a state, as you may find in other international courts. So the answer is yes. It's no problem, you have direct access. There's no exhaustion of local remedies. So you sue that trader, I mean the government, direct, of course, subject to other provisions like limitations of actions and such like issues. Now, the other question about the state sovereignty. When you sign into an international agreement, there are certain things, certain sovereignty issues you have to give up. And we have seen this in very many instances. So the issue of state sovereignty should not be a hindrance to DRC's participation into the activities of EAC. Yes, DRC laws and procedures are founded on civil law, while especially the founders of the community were on British common law. That should not be a problem. We had Rwanda and Burundi joining. They were also on civil law, but they have fitted in so well. And remember what my friend Rashid Kiboa said, you join as you found it. You don't come with your conditions. You apply to join a club, you have looked at their rules, you like it, and you join with those conditions. So the system the court uses is mostly the British system. They've tried, there's been an attempt to work the rules a bit to favor the civil law system. So the experience we have had with the Burundi and Rwanda has not been a problem at all. And I think there was Janet Kaguru on CET recently negotiated to higher levels just before DRC comes in, and whether that will be disadvantage to DRC because it relies on a lot of consumer goods from outside. There are two ways to look at that. Either DRC can negotiate on how to access the single custom territory in a phased manner so that it does not accept it. Alternatively, join the single custom territory wholesomely, and that will give an opportunity to other East African countries to produce those consumer goods that DRC imports. And it is also an opportunity for DRC itself then to produce those goods within its territory. That's an opportunity, and it shouldn't be a problem to them. Sorry, Chair, the last one I'd like to talk about, there was a comment by Hannington Amol that it may not be good to subject DRC directly to ESCJ processes and reciprocal custom regimes. Maybe the custom regimes, yes, again, they could go for a phased approach. But with the ESCJ, you know, there's no protocol to be subjected to ESCJ. So they can deposit the document of accession today, and tomorrow somebody can bring them to court. There's completely nothing wrong with that. Yes, I agree. The mass in DRC may not know anything about ESC. I'll not be surprised if you met people in Kinshasa, ask them about ESC, and they'll reply to you, what is that? Maybe it's just known by a few government technocrats. In my view, the joining of DRC was rushed. I participated in the negotiations. I participated in the first verification mission. It was rushed. So, and with the population of DRC, the mass or geographical area of DRC, it is very, very likely that maybe 99% of the population don't know anything about this. But it will take time. Sensitization will come in, and with the time, they'll come to understand what the country came into. There was one interesting question about DRC being a member of SADC, and now they've joined ESC. What treaty will take precedence? Now, we have take all members of ESC. They are also all members of a COMESA treaty, other than maybe Tanzania. Take all members of IGAD. They are all members of COMESA. 3 of them are members of ESC. So, and these organizations have been existing. We have never had any instance where we have been told there's been a serious conflict of the obligations under a certain treaty, and therefore the countries don't know what we want to do. If, for instance, IGAD members who are members of COMESA and also members of EAC, they are trading together, you'll find that the level at which IGAD is, they are still at free, they are in fact still struggling with the free trade area. Yet EAC is at a customs union. Now COMESA is still a free trade area. The customs union, ever since it was set up, I don't think it ever took off. So again, it will depend on what level at which you are. The higher the level, then that is what will take precedence. I've never seen a case where we have had such a conflict, that I belong to these regional organizations and there's a treaty conflict. If that was to be, I'm sure the courts will be able to solve it. But I will also imagine that if, let's say, a country is only in SADC and wants to trade with a country that is in EAC, then the trade regime will define what they'll use. So I don't see any conflict in that, actually. And I think that's all. I'll welcome anything to clarify if there is need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Mr. Eufinali Sokubo. I think those are the questions that were addressed to you. So if you can just quickly ask one question. Doreen, I've just seen there's just one question for Mr. Wanjohi, then you can take up with the question that have been asked to Mr. Amisi. So to you, Mr. Wanjohi, a question has been posed to you by Janet Kiguru. So Janet says,
thanks.
Yeah, so Janet says, oh, will the DRC be disadvantaged now that the EAC renegotiated the new CET bans in its absence, considering that it's a major consumer and economy of products from outside of EAC?
Thanks, Faith. And this question is coming from Jane. You realize that the products that are falling on the fourth band, that is at that 5%, they're very few. We are talking of about 7% of all the tariff lines. And these are the products that are produced in abundance across the region. So you find that when we feel like they are likely to be disadvantaged, no, because these are products that they can be able to source from in the EAC region.
So Doreen, you can proceed.
Okay, there is one question for you, Mr. Amisi. I will read it in both languages. In English, it says, is land leasing allowed for large-scale farming? What does the law state? And for you in French, l'allocation des terres est-elle autorisée pour l'agriculture à grande échelle? Que dit la loi en RDC? Mr. Amisi, if you can hear us, please unmute yourself and address that question. Monsieur Amisi, si vous pouvez nous entendre, vous pouvez ouvrir votre micro. D'accord.
Vous pouvez répondre à votre question, s'il vous plaît, madame.
La question concerne l'allocation des terres. Est-elle autorisée pour l'agriculture à grande échelle? Que dit la loi?
Très bien. En fait, cette question de la terre pose problème aujourd'hui. Nous sommes en discussion avec le gouvernement.
Un instant, monsieur. Un instant. For French, for English speaking, people in the house kindly join the translation. Click on English to follow his response, please. Vous pouvez y aller, monsieur.
Très bien. Je peux y aller?
D'accord, oui.
Voilà, je vais y aller. Donc, le problème est celui-ci. En matière de l'agriculture, il y a un problème réel. Il y a une loi de 2011 qui a été prise par le gouvernement pour encourager les investissements dans le secteur privé. Mais cette loi dit ceci à son article 16. et que tout investissement dans le secteur agricole, il faut qu'il y ait une majorité, il faut qu'il y ait 51% des Congolais, soit de l'État congolais, soit des Congolais. Donc, si quelqu'un, un investisseur étranger qui veut venir à République du Congo pour venir investir dans le secteur agricole, il doit céder 51% de sa part, de la part de la société aux Congolais ou à l'État congolais. Donc, au niveau de la FEC, nous avons estimé que c'est une aberration, tout simplement. Parce qu'il y a des terres agricoles qui restent inexploitées et pourquoi d'autant plus que la loi dit clairement que la terre et les sous-sols appartiennent à l'État congolais. Et celui qui vient exploiter la terre congolaise, on lui donne une période d'exploitation qui est de 25 ans renouvelable. Alors, nous sommes en discussion avec le gouvernement. La loi, sur base du lobby que nous avons fait au niveau du gouvernement, nous sommes en relation aujourd'hui avec les parlements pour que cette loi soit révisée et que nous avons fait des propositions au Parlement pour que cette loi soit totalement révisée pour permettre aux gens qui viennent investir dans le secteur agricole d'investir sans problème. Voilà. Mais la loi actuelle, telle qu'elle est d'application aujourd'hui, elle ne permet pas aux investisseurs étrangers de venir investir dans le secteur agricole parce qu'il faut céder 51% du capital aux Congolais. Ce n'est pas normal. Voilà. Mais la loi, elle est en révision au Parlement. Elle est au niveau du Sénat. Je crois qu'elle sera révisée très bientôt.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Amissi. Merci, je pense que c'est vraiment clair. Thank you very much, Mr. Amissi. It's really insightful and clear to our audience. And dear attendees, now we are reaching to the closing session of this webinar. I would like to thank you and give the opportunity to the vice chair of this committee, ELS Trade and Regional Integration Committee, to make a brief summary. And before the president of ELS gives his closing remarks, Mr. Shezada Wallis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Doreen. To begin with, I would first like to, on behalf of our committee, I would like to thank the East Africa Law Society and the president for appointing us to be on this committee and for having faith in the committee. And of course, to all the speakers and the attendees for making this informative and very engaging. And well done, chairs. You made us proud. So a brief summary from what we heard today is the fact that DRC's entry is basically going to support the East Africa Court of Justice. The fact that whenever there is integration, investment, business opportunities, there's also going to be dispute resolution mechanisms put in place, which means that for the lawyers in the room, you have plenty of opportunities now to explore the East Africa Court of Justice, to be able to learn more about it and to be able to make the most out of it. Apart from that, there was quite a lot said about the freedom of movement, whether it's labor, capital, investments, and lots and lots of business opportunities that we're looking forward to with this entry amongst the 7 states now. We also heard that Congo is very rich in terms of minerals and other products that it can utilize. Hence, there's a big opportunity for those who wish to go and get into manufacturing, mining, industries. And of course, this will also lead to the rise of Congo, which is trying to strive into coming out from what it does at the moment, which is mostly importation and exportation. So this is the time where East Africa community can support each other and support Congo to grow. The fact that this will now lead to a population of about 250 million to 270 million, it of course expands our market, makes us more sort of attractive. And this means that there is more opportunities for all of us to now work together. And the key word being used was learn from each other. So this is our time to now get to know each other, get to learn from each other. And the need to now, for all of us to also learn the 3 languages has come into place. We now need to get to know French, Swahili, and English. So whereas before we were stuck on English only, it seems like to be able to communicate and just like what happened today, those of us who speak only English and Swahili were putting our ears very close to our laptops, listening to the French, translation. So the need to learn French, I think, is very important, and for everybody to learn Swahili and English respectively, so that we can communicate with each other. We also saw that this will help Congo deal with its political and security issues. So it will help Congo be more stable and perhaps encourage other East African community countries to be able to engage more with Congo. But also, we see that this will help put together frameworks, policies, and governance for the East African community, from which we can be better governed, and we can encourage trade and integration. Lastly, this will create a common market for all of us, and the fact that Congo has access to the Atlantic Ocean, which means that we can now expand our borders, reach out to other countries around the world, and be a strong market. It's always a belief that as East Africa, we can be strong. As Africa, we can be stronger. So I believe this will lead the path to the vision of perhaps having the one Africa in place. I understand, and I saw there were questions about whether we will have one currency in terms of what happens in Europe with euros. I believe that's a dream and a vision that our leaders and people in Africa have been having. So why not someday, perhaps, at this point? I give it back to you, Doreen, to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shehzada. Thank you for sharing this brief and light summary. Now I'd like to give the floor to our president of ELS, to give us his closing remarks. Thank you. President, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and share with us the closing remarks. Okay. Seems that he can't hear me. Faith, maybe as the chair of this committee, you can share with us the closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Doreen. And I also like to take this opportunity to thank all our participants, starting with our keynote speakers. Thank you so much for dedicating your time, for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and your experience, your aspirations and hope concerning the East Africa community with our participants today. Special thanks to the Honorable, the Director of Trade East African Community, Mr. Kiboa. Special thanks to the former ESCJ, Registrar of the East African Court of Justice, Honorable Euphnalis Okubo. Special thanks again to the Director Private Sector, Kinshasa, Congo, Mr. Amisi. And special thanks to our speaker, Mr. Wanjohi, from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. I'll also take this opportunity to thank the President ELS for giving us, the committee, the privilege to be able to put together this webinar. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the other officials of the East Africa Law Society Trade and Regional Integration Committee for putting this together successfully. And most importantly, this would not have been a success without the participation of all our participants. We appreciate, thank you for your feedback. We will be sharing the recording of these sessions on the emails addresses that you used to register for this link. We hope to engage soon. And please, if you have any areas that you want us to organize a discussion on as a committee, please feel free to reach out to the Secretariat of the ELS and we'll be able to pick up from that. Thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.